this lecture, we will discuss about theory behind number restoration and methods used for removal of serial numbers. We will wind up this module with discussion on non-recoverable methods of number removable. Let us start our module with a look at what we are going to learn today. First is introduction, next methods used for removal of serial numbers, then is theory behind number restoration, non-recoverable methods of number removal, and lastly the conclusion. So dear students, let us start with the introduction. When a weapon is found either as part of a crime or merely as a recovered item, it is often useful to ascertain the origin of the weapon. With the help of weapon's physical characteristics, make and model of the weapon can be determined. Its history, that is when and to whom the factory originally shipped the weapon, and the chain of ownership can only be obtained from the serial number. The serial number present on firearms is usually altered or removed off by the culprit so that the identification of the actual owner of the firearm cannot be carried out. But depending on the amount of alteration or obliteration done, the original serial number belonging to the firearm can then be restored back. With the metallic object or surface is being stamped by a number, the metal present beneath the number gets compressed and hardened. The hardened portion is still present in case when grinding is carried on the surface. The application of an acidic solution will result the metal to be slowly eaten away, thereby resulting in the restoration of the original number. This technique is commonly known as raising the serial number. The object can be traced back or returned to its owner, or may also help in linking the suspect to the crime scene if the altered or obliterated number is restored back. Types of identification: marks found on the vehicle parts and other articles. There are three types of marking which are commonly found. First one is cast marks, then engraved marks, and stamped or punched marks. An engraving tool is generally employed for the purpose of engraving on plate and jewelry, but on metallic objects such as stainless steel or iron, electric engraver is used. All engraved marks are created by the process of removal of metal with a tool. No serious disturbance is seen in the underlying metal, and hence no definite method of restoration can then be applied. In case of stamping or punching, the number is stamped or punched into the metal. This results in distortion of the crystalline structure surrounding the punched number and also compression of the grain structure. Therefore, reduction in the size of grains as well as the crystal size of metal takes place, resulting in the alteration of physical and mechanical properties. Erased cast marks are not possible to be restored back, while the other two types of marks can be restored by application of appropriate chemical etching solutions that will certainly depend on the type of surface being etched or restored for and other procedures. Next is principle of restoration of number. When a number or trademark is stamped on the cold metal, that is the metallic surface, the crystalline structure of the metal under the stamp impression is disturbed. The disturbance penetrates for an appreciable distance into the substance of the metal, but is not visible to the naked eye once the actual identification caused by the punch has been removed off. However, when suitable chemical reagents are applied to such an erased area, the evidence of the disturbance into the crystalline structure becomes temporarily visible, that is for a very short period of time, for the reagents act more readily on the undisturbed areas of the metal than on the compressed particles. Thus, it is possibly by the application of suitable chemical solution to redevelop the numbers which have been filed out or removed off, and this enables the investigators also to trace the origin of the stolen article. The third is the photographing the characters. The easiest and best way for capturing the serial number once it has been restored is photography. For this purpose, a tripod and a remote shutter is used so as to ensure a better quality photograph. A scale should be used in the photograph so as to achieve the required documentation process, that is the photography process. In addition to it, to eliminate the serial numbers present on the firearm, oblique lighting should be employed for this purpose, that is lighting at a specific angle. After this, once it is clear that the numbers or characters have been raised from their original level and that photographs have been obtained of the same, simple modeling clay can be used to obtain a cast or impression of the same. A product, for instance, is microcell or accutrans is applied onto it. Hence, it results in a complete replica of the numbers which were raised from the altered or obliterated document. The numbers and photographs thus obtained can be now secured for future investigation purposes. In conjunction with the technique of chemical etching, the process can be expedited or fastened up by using electricity. The metal removal process gets speeded up by making the surface as a positive pole of low DC circuit, that is a 6 to 12 volt battery is used, and the negative pole or cathode is the swab by which swabbing is being done. This process is best applied to harder steels such as motorcycle and vehicle frames. It is often the case that stolen weapons will have the serial number obliterated or altered or removed off in an attempt to hide the weapon's origin. Method of obliteration generally fall into the categories that I will be discussing over here. First is filing or grinding. This is simply removing the number by hand. Filing or grinding with a high speed carborundum grinding wheel. This step is then proceeded over with the technique of polishing and over stamping of new number. If the erasure of the serial number does not go deep enough to remove the underlying plastic zone, the obliterated marks may be restored by suitable methods. But if the metal removal extends entirely into the plastic region, the numbers cannot be recovered back or they can never be restored back. Next technique is peening. In this method, to hide the number entirely, the surface is hammered with a round punch. Occasionally, there will be no removal of metal by grinding, but the marks will be defaced by peening so that they will not be discernible, that you cannot determine the numbers. This alteration involves hammering the mark using a center punch or a cold chisel. The degree of deformation caused by peening can vary. If the deformation caused by peening operation is localized or superficial, recovery may be possible also. The third type is over-stamping. Over-stamping is simply stamping a new number over the old one. That is, once the old number has been removed off, you can over-stamp another new number over the original one only. For numbers with curved surfaces, that is 2, 3, 5, 6, 9 and 0, the 8 stamp is most often chosen. Why this is chosen? Because of the curved surfaces in all these numbers. For numbers With straight surfaces, that is 1 and 7, the 4 stamp is the obvious choice. Serial numbers having the preponderance of numbers 4 or 8 should be treated with suspicion because they can be over-stamped over the original number very easily. The fourth type is the center punching. This technique involves the obliteration of the complete numbered surface by a pointed punch. The fifth technique is drilling. Drilling is completely removing the number and surrounding the metal with a drill. The hole left is usually filled with either lead solder or any welded metal. With drilling, the outline of the numbers may sometimes become visible by careful polishing of the area and examining it under a stereo microscope under oblique lighting conditions. The sixth method is welding. Welding is heating the surface until the metal flows with either an oxyacetylene welder or an arc welder. However, when the numbers are fused by welding, the recovery is almost impossible. Here the term recovery means restoration part. Here the plastic strain carrying the original number would be relieved due to heating. The structure of metals is polycrystalline in nature. That is, they are made up of crystals or grains having irregular shapes. These are formed when the molten metal cools to the point of solidification. During manufacture, by regulating the cooling of the metal, the size of the grains or crystals can be controlled, but this step affects the mechanical properties of the metal. When a number is stamped into the metal, the crystalline structure surrounding the stamped number is distorted and the grain structure is compressed. This effectively reduces the size of the grain or crystal size of the metal, thereby altering its physical and mechanical characteristics. Hence, the metal now having an altered crystalline structure will exhibit changes in certain properties such as strength, hardness, electrical, magnetic and chemical properties in the immediate area surrounding the stamped number. Beyond the immediate area surrounding the stamped number, this effect becomes too dissipated to have any effect. The depth of the metal affected by the compressed crystalline structure will be dependent upon the metal and the force applied. It is by these means that the original serial number may be redeveloped and made visible. If the surface is filed or ground down until the number has just been removed, the new surface will still contain an altered crystalline structure that, if correctly treated, can be revealed easily. This area of altered crystalline structure will conform to the outline of the obliterated number. This alteration in the crystalline structure can be studied with the help of a suitable etching solution, which will exhibit the change in crystalline form from a compressed to a non-compressed area. Likewise, if a magnetic field is applied to the metal, the compressed crystalline structure will behave in a slightly different way from the uncompressed area. This difference can be visualized by the use of finely divided iron dust. Of the methods used to remove the punched serial number, only drilling and welding will permanently remove all recoverable traces of the original number. With drilling, unless it is very superficial, the altered crystalline structure will be removed and so will any recoverable traces of the number. Center punching, depending upon the area of the serial number covered and the force applied to the punch, makes it extremely difficult to interpret any restored number. The problem here is that center punching will alter the crystalline structure itself. Any restoration performed will restore the center punching marks as well as the serial number. One overlaid upon the other results in an extremely confusing pattern of marks to decipher. Applying an oxyacetylene torch or arc welder until the metal flows will also permanently remove all traces of the crystalline structure. In this case, the metal is being remelted and the crystalline structure allowed to reform into a completely new and uniform pattern on cooling. Thus, the original crystalline structure together with the altered crystalline pattern formed by punching will have been completely lost. When a firearm is found or procured from a scene of crime, the primary step in the process of identification is to determine to whom the firearm actually belongs to. This determination is carried out by studying the serial number present on the firearm itself. The serial number present on firearms is usually altered or removed off or obliterated by the culprit so that the identification of the actual owner of the firearm cannot be carried out. But depending on the amount of alteration or obliteration done, the original serial number belonging to the firearm can be restored back. The principle of restoration of numbers is based on the fact that when a number or trademark is stamped on the cold metal, the crystalline structure of the metal under the stamp impression is disturbed. This disturbance penetrates for an appreciable distance into the substance of the metal, but is not visible to the naked eye once the actual identification caused by the punch has been removed. However, when certain chemical reagents or etching solutions are applied to the surface, also known as etching solution, the evidence of the disturbance into the crystalline structure becomes temporarily visible, for the reagents act more readily on the undisturbed areas of the metal than on the compressed particles. In addition to it, there are various methods by which serial numbers are removed, such as peening, filing or grinding, drilling, etc. Also, you have studied that of the certain methods used to remove the punched serial number, only drilling and welding will permanently remove all recoverable traces of the original number. Center punching, depending upon the area of the serial number covered and the force applied to the punch, makes it extremely difficult to interpret any restored number. The problem here is that center punching will alter the crystalline structure itself. In addition to it, it can be said that depending on the amount of damage and type of surface, specific etching agents can be employed for the purpose of restoration. So, dear students, with all these information, here we come to the end of today's lecture. Do keep in mind what we have discussed today. This is time for your self-study. If you want to learn more for enhancing your knowledge, you may log on to our website www.cec.nic.in for MCQ, quiz, assignments and LORs. Till then, keep studying, stay connected and goodbye.